spam is everywhere. It's what's for dinner. It's what's crowding your inbox. It's even what's keeping you out of the pool. And while all of that makes it practically unavoidable, it also makes it incredibly easy to tune out. Anyone who is even mildly tech literate knows all the cliches of spam by now. The e-begging Nigerian royalty, the legions of faceless porn bots, or the prize money hidden behind links. These tricks aren't even the oldest in the book, they predate the book. So, your eyes gloss them over, knowing not to spend the time of day upon something that so obviously wants something from you. Whether that something is sensitive information, like passwords or IPs, or more simply, a reaction.
Fuck you, fuck you, fuck!
But, in some cases, discerning such a motive isn't so easy. And by some cases, I mean the one we're about to discuss today. The strange case of an eccentric man named Captain Kouchie, his wonderful world of Kutcharitaville, and the thousands of comments scattered across the internet singing the praises of a restaurant that doesn't exist. Comments like these.
It just doesn't get any better than seeing the gorgeous Mrs. Anita Pelaez over at her and her husband, Captain Kouchie's place. Some folks also call him the Kutch Man. Anita and Kouchie's Key West Key Lime Pie Factory and Grill. Just watching the lovely couple baking together all of those yummy key lime pies at their key lime pie factory and grill in Asheville. Of Kutcharitaville, it's always worth the trip to visit them in their historic sure enough, key lime pie one wild and crazy guy. It should be on everyone's bucket list. Women are so wild about him and his and the world's best key lime pies. Yum, fantastic. I talk about delicious key lime pies. What nutgasms he'll all my bone within the first 4 weeks of full port. I highly recommend Mrs. Anita Pelaez. Never made delicious. It would probably be Kobe Bryant one day about basketball.
So, what's happening here? There's no shortage of theories online about the mysterious intentions behind these spam posts. But I think it's best that we lay out a timeline of the strange activity before we cover anything more speculative or anecdotal. So without further ado, a timeline of strange activity. The year was 2007. It was the year of the first iPhone release, as well as the year of Spider-Man 3.
How's the pie?
So good.
The website in question? SoGoodBlog.com, a food blog. The article? Well, it's less of an article and more of just a quote from Quentin Tarantino about how In-N-Out Burger reminds him of having naughty sex. You get one comment from user Shatraw agreeing to disagree, and then nothing. Radio silence for 2 years. That is, until Jimmy Buffett shows up on October 22nd, 2009. These cheeseburgers are better than sex. Where, I tell you? Kouchie's Key West Bar and Grill in Asheville, North Carolina. As far as I have been able to find, this is the earliest example of what I'm going to refer to from now on as a pie post. It might be the first, but in no way is it representative of what the phenomenon would go on to look like at large. In fact, there is another, more representative comment on this page about Kouchie. Only it was posted an entire 4 years after the fact, in 2013. Whoever, or whatever, is behind the pie posting thought to comment on this specific blog post, which is nothing more than a quote and some commentary, twice. Twice over the course of 4 years. And this isn't even mentioning the fact that the Jimmy Buffett comment was 2 years too late to the discussion to begin with. This begs the question of, why bother and why here? It's a question that's going to be begged repeatedly for every incarnation of the pie posts. Admittedly, however, these early posts are nothing especially out of the ordinary, and some of them don't even raise common red flags that are respective to spam posts. The Jimmy Buffett post is the briefest and most direct of them all, but most of the others are relatively coherent as well, with some even responding to the content of the articles they're posted on. Generally, they read as nothing more than enthusiastic recommendations of Kouchie's Key West Bar and Grill. And during the first few months of posting, the comments were exclusive to food-related sites, such as restaurant review sites or personal food blogs. Also of note is the commenter's choice of account names. Usually, he posts under the, often misspelled, names of celebrities, such as Jimmy Buffett, Christy Brinkley, or Marissa Tomei. This is seemingly to create the illusion of a testimonial or endorsement. Though, during these first couple of years, the chosen pseudonym rarely has anything to do with the contents of the comment. The poster also signs off at the end of each of their posts, often ending them with a long line of ellipses followed by the name of the account. These trends of recognizable names and long sign-offs would remain calling cards of the poster going into the future. The most significant post of 2009 is one made on Foodeo54, a site that allows users to review restaurants and in turn receive recommendation based upon their tastes. On December 6th, a user named Vinny Gambini, the misspelled name of Joe Pesci's character from the movie My Cousin Vinny, left a long, rambling review of none other than Kutchie's Key West. This review, in its entirety, reads as follows. I would put 100 stars here, but they only have 5. Yeah, what's up with that? Anyways, listen up, you guys. This is my first review that I think I've ever written. I don't usually do this kind of stuff. This write-up is about my old pal, Kouchie Palaez, who lives down in Asheville. Well, as the story goes, back in the old days, sometime back in the 70s, we ain't that old yet, Kouchie opens up a Greasy Spoon, aka a restaurant. No, Kutch opened up a very nice eating establishment, there in Hills of North Carolina. What for? Well, we had our doubts about it at first, but the kid would ultimately prove everybody wrong. Don't tell the boy that he can't do something, because he will do it and shove it up your nose. That's why I am using good language here. Plus, I don't want my legs broken either. No, don't get me wrong. Kutch is a wise guy, but not that kind of a wise guy. Anyway, the kid did good. Damn good. He became quite a successful restaurateur. He didn't invent the cheeseburger, but boy, he sure perfected it. He calls them goody goodies, and they're now world famous. I read online now that they've become the world's greatest cheeseburgers. We sure didn't see that coming 35 years ago. Nor did we know that Kutchie would perfect key lime pie as well. Kutchie's world's greatest key lime pie has now become world famous too. I always thought it would be his roast prime ribs of beef with swamp water. That's my favorite. Kutch also serves the most awesome Black Angus steaks that you have ever eaten. Great seafood as well as steak and seafood combinations. Kutch ages all that prime beef in a huge walk-in cooler that he has behind the kitchen. Kutch cuts all that beef himself. He grinds his burgers daily and hand makes all those burgers. Kutch makes all those key lime pies from real ingredients, including real key lime juice. Anita, Kutchie's lovely wife, helps him now making all those pies. She also runs the front too, as well as the office. Yeah, keep it all in the family. Now that's how you get quality control. Pop, Kutchie's dad, has always been there to help from the beginning. Kutchie's mom even helped out until she passed away several years ago. Through the 80s, Kutch and Anita had 3 sons, Carlo, Santino, and Joseph. Kutch calls them his 3 amigos. All 3 sons were raised there in the restaurant and have learned all aspects of the business, from the dish tank, mopping floors, cutting meats, serving tables, cooking, and tending bar. Kutch said that his first road sign listed at the bottom, family restaurant. Kutch said, at that time we had no idea that someday my whole family would be the ones working here. Well, I guess that's life. Sometimes I call Kutch and ask him how things are going, and he says, just another day in paradise. Shit, I can tell that he's sick and tired of doing the same old thing, day in and day out. But Kutch would never admit that. He'll probably keep the place open to train his grandkids to business. Kutch has many people calling all the time, wanting him to start an online business to sell his key lime pies countrywide. I don't know if he could bake that many. He seems pretty pushed as it is. He says that maybe someday he will throw up another building and put a key lime pie factory in it. Maybe start a website too. Maybe he will, maybe he won't, who knows. Just don't tell him that he can't. Oh, I almost forgot the music. Kutch has a lifetime of music that he plays constantly, front and back. Kutch personally knows just about every recording artist from the 60s and the 70s, and a lot of those doo-wop guys too. Kutch has Jimmy Buffett stuff that even Buffett don't remember, and piles of island music to boot. A super high dollar sound system with about 24 or more speakers to play all that music on. You should hear it sometime. Well, like they say, all things come to an end, so I guess I should wrap up this story about my old pal Kouch and the tales of Kutcharitaville. Besides, this should be worth a couple free meals and island drinks for me and my family for at least 2 trips. So get by Kutchie's and enjoy yourself some goody goodies and Kutchie's world greatest key lime pie. Tell Kutch that Vinny sent you. Thanks for reading my first and hopefully my last review. And like Kutch says, keep the faith, baby. Vinny Gambini. P.S. See, I kept it clean. This is the first real departure Pie Post make into what will become known as their more common idiosyncrasies, i.e. extreme length. But it also lays out the most specific information about the restaurant and its owners thus far. We get mentions of Captain Kouchie, his wife Anita, and 3 sons, Carlo, Santino, and Joseph. We also get a bit more confirmation that this Kutchie's Key West restaurant actually exists, since this particular post is left on its own Foodie054 page, complete with an address and a phone number. Looking further into it, we can find a listing in the North Carolina business directory that corroborates this, as well as an obituary for an Oswald Carlos Palaez from Asheville. While an Oswald Pelaez isn't directly mentioned in the Vinny Gambini post, we can still glean a few leads from this. The obituary mentions that he is survived by a son named Oswald Jr., who is married to an Anita, as well as grandchildren whose names include Carlos, Santino, and Joseph. Any further digging on websites like White Pages shows more of the same thing. There's also a Facebook page for an Oswald Pelaez from Asheville, although I'm not sure if it's Oswald Sr. or Jr., but we'll come back to that later. Plugging the address into Google Maps shows us this building, which is what's standing there today. But if we jump back in time to 2008, we can see a little blue building next to it marked Key West. Interestingly, according to Reddit user FaxMachineMode2, the Kouchie's Key West location was bought out in 2008 by another restaurant called All Star Sports Bar. The sign for All Star can be seen on the current Google Maps result as well. Considering the fact that Kouchie stopped running ads in the Asheville Citizen-Times newspaper after the year 2000, and that the only mention of Kouchie's Key West on the internet prior to the Jimmy Buffett post is from 2005, it's reasonable to assume that the restaurant shut its doors for good at some point between 2005 and 2008. The newspaper archives give us the clearest picture of the restaurant's timeline and how the Pelaez family fits into everything. We can trace the first mention of the restaurant to a classified ad from August 28, 1976. Ads in both the classified section and otherwise would continue to crop up on a regular basis throughout the late 70s and the 80s. Some of the early Captain Kouchie posts would reference the tagline of these ads, "Where eating is a pleasure and cooking is an art." A post from 2011 would even mention a monster-sized iguana lizard mascot for the restaurant, who is also present in some of the ads, though it appears to be named Jody rather than the pie poster's claim that he's called Jimmy Green. So cool. From the October 22nd, 1978 edition of The Times, there's a short article about an upcoming Thanksgiving event to be held at the restaurant, which was called Kouchie's Steak and Lobster House at the time. Here we can find further confirmation that both Oswald Pelaez Sr. and Jr. were affiliated with the restaurant. We also discovered that the Pelaez family had owned the property since at least February of 1974, and back then it was called a Save Quick, which seems to be some sort of convenience store. This Save Quick, however, burned down, and they opened Kouchie's on the same grounds 2 years later. The Thanksgiving event was the first of quite a few community-based events that the restaurant would go on to house. Others of note being a dinner for the Sherlock Holmes Society of North Carolina, and a surprise anniversary party for a local couple called the Frisbees. We can also see a few classified ads looking to hire an organist, which seemed to be a successful endeavor, as later listings in the paper mention a Jack Fisher as their in-house organist. Not only that, but the restaurant rebranded from a steak and lobster place to a supper club, advertising dine and dance in bold, as well as event listings. It wouldn't be until 1991 that the restaurant would be referred to in the classifieds by its most well-known name, Kouchie's Key West Bar and Grill. There would be no further ads in the Times other than the occasional section in the classifieds, looking for new kitchen and wait staff. Also worth noting is the fact that none of these ads mention key lime pie at all. The goody burgers aren't even mentioned, which is kind of weird considering that the rest of the specifics in the pie posts seem to be on point with how the restaurant actually was in real life. From all of this, it's safe to assume that whoever is behind the spam was probably associated with the restaurant, whether as a customer, employee, or owner, sometime during the 90s or the early 2000s, due to the emphasis on key lime pie and references to the Florida Keys. As I mentioned before, there is only one other mention of Kouchie's on the internet before the spam began. This was from an article by Blue Ridge Now, an online newspaper based in North Carolina. It's a short read about a small town named Arden, one of many very small towns close to Asheville. You may have noticed that many of the addresses associated with Kouchie's list it as being part of Arden, not Asheville, and that some of the newspaper ads even list its address as being in Skyland, which is an entirely different town altogether. Similar to the mention of the restaurant having a giant lizard for a mascot, early posts sometimes refer to Kouchie's as being in the land of the sky. 'Cause, like sky, land, Skyland.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme, every stanza kind of rhymes with the last one.
However, the article mainly deals with the fact that Asheville has been swallowing up many of the small communities that surround it, like Arden or Skyland. The article quotes an Arden resident named Sandy Sams with the following: "I live with an Arden P.O. box number, a Fletcher mailing district, and a Skyland fire department." This helps explain the contradicting information in the addresses we found, and a later mention of Kouchie's Key West having the best and the biggest burgers around makes the whole goody burger thing a little less inexplicable. But other than this article and the newspapers, it's just the thousands of pie posts that are the only testaments left to Captain Kouchie on the web. which, for the record, wouldn't be a bad slice of internet real estate at all, as any search for any combination of keywords common to the spam yields pages of results. It would be a fascinating approach to an ad campaign, but ad campaigns aren't so effective when what you're selling no longer exists. So we ask again, why bother? The spammer, however, continues undaunted by this question into the year 2010, and there's not a huge world of difference between the posts of that year and the first crop in 2009, but I think that there are two posts specifically that I would like to go over. Seen here is the first time a pie post appeared on a website that wasn't food related. It was made on January 9th, 2010, under the username Gene Hackman, which, again, is the name of a celebrity. The website was a reggae website called that, and the post in question was just a simple media player hosting a cover of the reggae classic Pass the Kouchie by the Mighty Diamonds. What attracted the poster to the site is self-explanatory, but here's the post. We love it, yeah, yeah, yeah. We love it, yeah, yeah, yeah. Pass the damn Kouchie, man. Hear what I'm saying, man, you know what I mean? I said pass the damn Kouchie. No, man, not the green stuff. The mellow yellow stuff. The world's greatest and most famous key lime pie, from Kutcharitaville Cafe, made by Kouchie Palaya's himself in Kouchie's rockin' Key West, the best island in the whole wide world. No, Kouchie's not a goody-goody. That be his famous cheeseburgers, goody-goodies. While you be passing the Kouchie, make mine a huge slice and one of those goody Kouchie burgers. I'll have 2 bottles of beer, please. Can ya make that to go? Gene Hackman. I don't think the real Gene Hackman would appreciate the endorsement of drinking and driving at the end there, but the post is what it is. And Kouchie is slang for weed, by the way, just in case nobody got that. Like marijuana. Or pot. Weed. Yeah.
Wu-Tangin'! Woo!
You guys know where 7-Eleven is?
He just swallowed the roast, motherfucker.
The other post from 2010 I want to cover is pretty typical. But I honestly think it's just one of the funnier ones, and there's something about the pop culture references in it that makes it pretty worthy of discussion, actually. Take a listen. I remember when Booby Flay was studying for his culinary arts degree at the University of Kutcharitaville back in the 1980s. He was graduating the same year that I had begun my culinary education at Kouchie Palaya's highly acclaimed, world-famous University of Kutcharitaville in Cochise, Key West. That's where we learned the fine art of broiling cheeseburgers to perfection. Although we were never taught the secrets of how to prepare Kouchie's goody goodies, the world's greatest cheeseburgers in paradise, neither did we learn Kouchie's secret recipe for the world's greatest key lime pies. All the trade secrets and copyrighted products were heavily guarded. It was all considered the personal and intellectual properties of Kouchie Palaya's, the university's founder. However, we did receive a great culinary education in our studies at the university. Professor Kouchie Palaya's has forgotten more about the food business than most chefs will ever know. Now that's a fact, and he's about the sexiest professor that you could ever love to learn from. All the graduates of the university are immediately absorbed into the food industry before or shortly after graduation. My degree from the University of Kutcharitaville has opened many doors for me, as well as many great career positions. Look at Bobby Flay, Admin Richmond, Anthony Bourdain, Giudice De Laurentiis, Guy Fieri, Dennis Thomas, Mario Batali, Yankee Jack, James Oliver, Terry Levi, Alton Brown, Nigella Lawson, Paula Dean, and Rachel Ray, to name but only a few of the Kutcharitaville graduates that I am aware of, at least. Need I say more? Thank you, Professor Kouchie. You have given me, as well as thousands of others, the opportunity to have fantastic careers as well as a great way of life. You should be very proud of yourself, to say the least. We will always remember the most important thing that you ever taught us above everything else, that if God be for you, then who can be against you? Words of wisdom from a true teacher, words of true love, and making the world a better place in which to live. And a far greater place in which to enjoy great food. And like you always said, life is too short to eat bad food. With the greatest respect, Jenny McMasters. One of the common assumptions about the pie poster is that they're probably an older person. The diction and tone used in the post generally aligns with something not unlike a 1950s huckster or ad man. And pop culture references are often those that an older person would be more familiar with. You've got your Jimmy Buffetts, your Johnny Carsons, your Gene Hackmans, your Don Rickleses, on Rickley, I guess. Your Blues Brothers, even your Roger Ramjets, which is a reference to the cartoon from the 60s. I think this is a pretty logical jump to make on as little evidence as we have, but Reddit user Labond Gozi brings up some good points that cast doubt on this theory, at least partly, using this booby flay post in particular. He points out that when the post begins listing off the graduates of the University of Kutcharitaville Cooking School, which is just an incredible concept to begin with, but I digress, it shows that the user's knowledge of this topic is very, very superficial. He's basically just rattling off the most Googleable celebrity chefs he can, all of which having no connection between each other than their fame. Some have misspelled or inaccurate names, like Paula Deen with an A instead of an extra E, or James Oliver instead of Jamie Oliver. Going even further, some I can't even find at all, or at least can't connect to the food industry. Yankee Jack, which is one of the names he names, appears to be a Key West-themed musician. And I think I could do an entire extra video on this guy and the music he makes. I won't. I'll just show some of it here, because it kind of speaks for itself.
This is called those son of a bitchin' pocket picking damn utilities. If you hate them as much as I do, then you're gonna love this song. We pay them for their coffee breaks. We pay them for their snacks. We pay them for their OT meals. We pay them to relax. You ready? They've got you by the... They've got a monopoly. Those son of a bitchin' pocket picking damn utility.
Getting back to my point, this list of celebrities seems a little too recent for someone who is usually displaying more sensibilities. You'd think, just for the sake of consistency, he'd at least mention Julia Child or something, but he doesn't. This, along with the fact that many of these references, even to older celebrities and just his posts in general, are pretty surface level, and nothing more than just name drops or account names, suggesting that the pie poster could be just Googling this information to prop up the whole huckster persona. But some later posts do, in fact, have more specific references, which makes this alternative theory just as questionable. What it does make clear, however, is that there is at least some lack of consistency between the posts, which suggests to me that not all of these posts are made by the same person, rather they are made by a collective. We'll return to this idea once we get to the theories section of the video, but it's something to keep in mind. In 2011, the posts continue, but slow down considerably. There isn't a large noticeable change in style or posting habits. There's not much to cover here, really, except for the fact that he did comment on a website hosting the lyrics for a frog-themed parody of Who Let the Dogs Out by the Baha Men, but other than that, it's business as usual. 2012, however, is the year of the first major shifts in the poster's MO, and, in my opinion, they're some of the weirdest. It almost seems like the pie poster's intentions, whatever they are, were temporarily derailed in the summer of this year, sending him on what essentially feels like a side quest that has few immediate connections to his earlier posts. Instead of their usual haunts of foodie blogs and news articles with vague connections to their many interests/obsessions, posts began cropping up on financial websites. Take a look at the following comment, posted on July 6th on this 5-cent nickel article about the best places to invest for retirement. Every time you turn around these days, it seems like everyone is talking about investing in gold for your retirement. Now, I don't want to be a dummy. I want to make some money for my retirement. My wife and I found a place on Facebook that caught our attention. It was a fellow named Oswald Pelaez. We looked up his website, ozsgold.com. Well, lo and behold, the site stated that Mr. Oz will guarantee any investments in his ventures into the gold markets. It seems very appealing to us to invest in such a company with guaranteed investments. You sure can't get that in the stock market, now can you? My wife seems very skeptical about trusting our retirement funds with Mr. Oswald Pelaez. She doesn't see how anyone can make such claims, much less tell you that he will guarantee our future. After stepping back a little and giving it some thought for a while, we concluded that Mr. Oz is just full of hogwash. Who the hell does he think he is? He must think that the public are just a bunch of morons. The nerve of some people. The more I thought about it, the madder I got. Hell, I could chew up nails and spit out tacks by the time my wife got me settled down. Please, please, please warn everyone about Oz'sGold.com and Mr. Oz. That son of a bitch has to be a crook or just plume loco. Maybe another Bernie Madoff. Who the hell knows? It just ain't right. Thanks, Jack. To anyone not too familiar with pie posting, there would seem to be no connection between this post and the others at all. Beside the mention of Oswald Pelaez, this is a far cry from our usual fare. Though the line about chewing up nails and spitting out tacks does strike me as a bit Kutchian. Same with the descriptor plume loco. The other posts of this ilk, usually referred to as the Oz's Gold posts, are easily distinguishable from the rest of the spam. By that, I mean they all make sense, and they all respond to the article they're commented on, instead of the usual non-sequitur ramblings we've gotten used to. These posts, however, do have distinguishing qualities within themselves, and further highlight a strange lack of consistency on the part of the poster. This lack of consistency, however, is not within the styling, diction, or accuracy of the posts themselves. Rather, it's within their stated intentions. Keep in mind that the 5-cent nickel comment, the one that called Pelaez's investment business hogwash and compared him to Bernie Madoff, was made on July 6th, 2012. The following comment was made just 6 days later on a part-time money article. 1 year ago, I invested $125K with Oz'sGold.com. Last week, I phoned the company president, Oswald Pelaez, to check in on my investment. After a few minutes, he reported back to me that my investment had already doubled in value. He thanked me for calling. I thanked him in return. Wow. My investment is now worth $259,000, and that's just in 1 year. Looks like I'll be retiring a lot sooner than I thought. Now here we are, with another comment mentioning Oswald Pelaez and Oz'sGold.com, but this time they're singing their praises. It seems strange that every documentable mention of Oz'sGold.com left on the web also mentions the Pelaez name, like the commenters feel the need to emphasize the connection between the two, no matter if what they're saying is supporting the company or calling it a scam. Other comments even mention Pete Pelaez as being involved in the company, like this one left on Monday morning on August 19th. 1 + 1 = 2, fools. That's right, Peter plus Oswald equals 2 fools, better known as the Fool's Brothers. It takes a fool to try to sell fool's gold, doesn't it? Just Google Oz'sGold.com and see what you think. How could anyone in their right mind guarantee their investors' profits as well as their futures? Etc., etc., etc. Again, this post is another that is warning people against using the Oz'sGold service, when a month ago, a person we can assume is the same commenter, or at least some kind of affiliate, was recommending it. Their username, Willie Jordan, is also evidence toward this comment being associated with this phenomenon, as Willie Jordan would go on to become a common pseudonym used in pie posts from 2012 until 2014. Another similar Oz'sGold post was made under the name Leanne McDonald, which is another name that the poster uses frequently. In many ways, the Oz'sGold posts are more typical of your average spam post than the Captain Kutchie ones. When viewed as a unit, the contradictions between whether or not they endorse Oz'sGold can be confusing.
I'm gonna play both sides. Why would you tell me that?
But when viewed separately, each one is clearly pushing an agenda, and like many other spam posts, they all provide a link for you to follow. One even provides a phone number, which I'll keep blacked out for obvious reasons, that leads you directly to an Oswald Pelaez from Asheville, North Carolina. This listing states that the Oswald with this phone number is 94 years old, which coincides with the age listed in Oswald Sr.'s obituary. This suggests that the alleged owner of Oz'sGold is Oswald Sr., and we can assume one step further that the Oswald Pelaez account on Facebook is probably Oswald Sr. as well, due to these, shady posts around 2011 and 2012. There are a few posts on his Facebook talking about someone named Jamie Lee Wilson, but all I could find on a Jamie Lee Wilson from Asheville is an old court case that has no apparent connection to anything key lime pie related. And the only other discrepancy between identifying the Oz'sGold owner as Oswald Sr. over Jr. is the fact that the comment on Monday morning refers to Oswald Sr. and Peter Pelaez being brothers, which by all other accounts, Peter is the son of Oswald Sr. So unless there's another Peter Pelaez that we just don't know about, we have a contradiction there. Make what you will of it, but I'm given to believe that the pie poster is the one mistaken here. The Oz'sGold.com link has long been dead, but if you load it back into the Wayback Machine, you can find that it redirects you to a website called numis1.com/goldcoin, owned by an organization called Numis Network. Look up Numis Network and you'll quickly find out that it's a multi-level marketing company. In other words, a pyramid scheme. I could get into the specifics of how the organization works, or worked, since it seems to have dropped off the map completely, but that would be a whole different video. Just know that what was primarily being sold down the pyramid were collectible coins, which is a pretty niche market, and I can't imagine getting people to buy in would be an easy sell. Still, why the pie poster decided to start posting about this specific company is still up for interpretation. Was it an attempt at advertising the Numis Network? Or maybe was it a subtle way to dox Oswald Pelaez and implicate him as a scam artist? It's hard to tell. Otherwise, the more typical posts continued in their typical fashions. But something about the holiday cheer of 2012 really got the pie poster's motor running. Maybe it was the impending apocalypse. No one knows. What we do know is that during this time period, comments began popping up not only on the captain's common haunts, but on content that was more sexual in nature, like relationship columns or even studies on reproductive health and the nature of attraction. They seem to shy away from more explicit displays of sexuality, as there aren't any comments on porn sites. But anything even a shade suggestive was fair game, and their comments even began to follow suit. The following comment was made anonymously on Christmas Day, 2012. My dear wife insists that Kouchie and Anita Pelaez of Kouchie and Anita Pelaez's Key Lime Pie Factory bake the best key lime pies in the universe. She tells me that it is better than the ones her granny baked in the Florida Keys when my wife was a little girl. I just smile at her and say, okay honey, I'm sure they are. She really gets turned on when she eats those pies. No problems here, but it's hard to get her to do it in the bed anymore. Last night it was the kitchen table, day before yesterday in the driveway behind my car. That woman has just gone crazy since she started eating those pies. Help in Kentucky. Dave. The theme of the pies acting as an aphrodisiac would become a recurring one in future posts, with this comment on an Emacs Health article being among the most explicit of examples. I'll let you in on a little secret that my husband and I know. You can laugh about it if you want to, but it's really true. Some married friends of ours told us some time ago about how the key lime pies from Anita's and Kouchie's Key Lime Pie Factory in Asheville, North Carolina, you know, the one near the Biltmore house, had completely changed their sex life for the better and in a most positive way. Not sure, but we believe that Anita and Kouchie's famous pies have a way of supercharging people's endorphins as well as multiplying them very rapidly. Like, within just minutes after consuming the pie, we find ourselves butt naked, our cloths ripped to shreds, and lying all over hell and back, and we're ready to get it on. Some say it is something magical, but I don't think we believe in magic. While others have suggested that maybe Anita and Kouchie were probably adding beta-glucan into the recipe, we don't know if we buy that theory either. I mean, it could probably drop your cholesterol and has been proven to cause apoptosis in cancer cells, but give me a break. How can a key lime pie cause a man and a woman to become supercharged, multi-orgasmic, and go at it for up to 24 hours? Just answer me that. I've normally been able to orgasm 2, 3, sometimes even 4 times in the past. My husband's all-time record was 3 times in a single night, and that was back in college when he did that. Since then, he'd have to be really, really turned on and have much more stimulation to get off even twice in one night. But now, if after dinner we split one of Anita's and Kouchie's key lime pies, then we've been able to go at it like rabbits for that night, and most of the next day, or until we're so damn sore and stiff that we can hardly move. The desire to continue definitely remains. But these 40-something bodies, after jumping each other's bones for 18 to 20 hours, get to where they just refuse to cooperate any longer. I'll tell you this. If you want to see for yourselves just what the key lime pie can do for your erotic love life, do like we do and try it on a Friday evening so you can have the rest of the weekend to recuperate from your 20 hours of erotic bliss and pure enjoyment. We still haven't come to any conclusions as to what the secrets to these pies are, but we sure as hell are having a great time trying to find out. And We really hope we never do, to be honest. And if any of you do figure it out, please, just keep it to yourself. We sure hope our story touched a lot of you folks out there, and that having this knowledge can keep you couples happy and in love forever and ever. If we can save just one marriage by telling you our little secret, then that alone will make it worth it for us. Thank you. Thank you, Anita and Kouchie Pelaez. You sure have made this world a sweeter place to live in. We love you guys. Please keep the ovens hot, and please keep baking your magical key lime pies forever. The Cabots. Now we get to the year 2013, which is probably the setting of one of the two biggest paradigm shifts in how this poster operates. To illustrate this shift, I'm going to show you a chart of the poster's activity created by Reddit user MarkDungo333. According to Dungo, there are 156 known posts made by the poster in 2013 alone, which is more than all the other years before it combined. The year continued the trend of increasing sexuality, both in the content being commented on and the comments themselves. Eventually, though, things reached a head on July 21st, when the poster leaves one of his most infamous comments on a Yelp page for a restaurant called Better Than Sex in Key West, Florida. A very fitting title, one that combines the pie poster's newest obsession with his oldest one. Hello, ladies. Please take a few minutes and enjoy my true stories about the wonderful world of key lime pies, as well as the magic of the most beautiful Mrs. Anita Pelaez, wife extraordinaire and the beauty queen of the key lime pie world. Oh, what an honor that must be. Elwood Blues here. Ah, yes. May each one of you enjoy your very own key lime pie baked by the lovely and most gracious Mrs. Anita Pelaez and her handsome husband, the world-famous deep-sea underwater diver and treasure explorer and hunter extraordinaire, Captain Kouchie Pelaez. Together, the proud owners of Asheville's own Anita and Kouchie Pelaez's Key Lime Pie Factory and Grill, conveniently located near the Biltmore House and Estate in that beautiful city that's known as heaven on earth whenever Mrs. Anita Pelaez is anywhere near. Ah, the magic of Anita Pelaez and her key lime pies, voted the country's favorite key lime pies for the past 27 consecutive years. That babe can bake me a pie anytime she wants to. Etc., etc., etc. This comment by Elwood Blues is an absolute behemoth in length, even relative to what we've seen before this. And at this point, the poster seems to have mastered incorporating all of their perverseness into a single document. The absurd sexualization of a real-life person, Anita Pelaez, the constant mentioning of dicks, dick length, dick girth, another mention of Yankee Jack. To onlookers and even to the poster himself, it should seem like they've outdone themselves, that after this, it'd be smart to quit while they're ahead, so to speak. But this wasn't a grand finale. It was the beginning of a much larger tour de farce, as, from here on out, the poster would double down on proselytizing Captain Kouchie's good name far and wide, and their current modus operandi simply was not up to snuff. If you plug key phrases from this comment into Google, you'll net hundreds of results from 2013 to 2016, showing that this exact comment, almost word for word with very little variation, was spammed far and wide, with a lot less discretion in terms of where it ended up. By now, it seemed that if the topic at hand even had the slightest adjacency to anything the pie poster usually talked about, it became a target. Author Ernest Hemingway had famously resided in Key West, Florida. As a result, the Hello Ladies post appears on articles mentioning Hemingway. At a 2013 Power Rangers convention called Power Morphicon, a pie throwing demonstration racked up a bill for damages after some of the pie ended up on the convention center's air wall. A fundraiser.com campaign was started to help pay for the bill. Hello Ladies can be spotted hiding inconspicuously within the comments section. Remember Pass the Kouchie by the Mighty Diamonds? Well, the mere existence of that song seems to cause the poster to target any article that mentions reggae. Here's Hello Ladies in the comments of an article about Snoop Dogg, back when he was known as Snoop Lion. And right above it, another pie post, this one from 2014. Googling any key phrases from this also gets you similar results. Before Hello Ladies, posts were by and large unique, meaning that he would actually go on the site and type up an individual response for each different pie post. After Hello Ladies, however, this sort of posting became the norm, this copy-pasting style, and this allowed the poster to proliferate his internet presence to an astounding degree, creating a small library of his own copypasta to spam far and wide. Now, instead of just a post here and there on random WordPress blogs, we can find entire accounts dedicated to these new copypasta, like this IMDb account. During this period of the most intense spamming to date, from 2013 to 2016, certain names the poster would use began to stand out. We've already mentioned Willie Jordan and Leanne McDonald, but Jake Carson and Roger Ramjet are other common monikers. Strangely enough, all these names seem to align with different posting habits. Jake Carson is by far the most prominent and prolific of any name assumed by the poster, and even has a Facebook account that's full of exactly what you'd think. He seems to have only posted in this newer copy-paste format, as no bits of original writing can be attributed to him. He also doesn't deviate too far from posting upon the topics we've come to expect. Though this post on a woman's obituary page is a strange and shocking departure. There's no confirmed connection between this woman and Kouchie's Key West or the Pelaya's family. The Willie Jordan name is generally associated with the more sex-obsessed posts, both before and after the switch to copypasta. Roger Ramjet begins to crop up at the tail end of this period, and the topics he comments on are often far removed from the usual fare. He is also a frequent reviewer on Google Books, which doesn't give post dates to its reviews, making it harder to track his movements compared to the other pseudonyms. As for the copypastas themselves, there are at least 8 of them to be confirmed as genuine, all making their debuts at various times from 2013 onward. These posts, like their forefather and Hello Ladies, tend to be considerably longer than most of the unique, non-copypasta posts. Because of this, I'm not going to read all of them here in their entirety. Instead, I'll leave a link in the description to a paste bin that contains the full collection, and read some of my favorite bits and pieces of the copypasta aloud for you now. It's a well-known fact that Captain Kouchie Pelaya's knows who put the bomp in the bomp shoe bomp and the rama in the rama lama ding dong. He even knows who put the dip in the dip da dip da dip. How cool is that? I'd give my left nut to set down with Captain Kouchie Pelaya's, Frankie Valli, Terry Levi, Joe Pesci, Bob Gaudio, Bob Crew, Paul Schaefer, Bob De Niro, Tommy DeVito, Martin Scorsese, and Clint Eastwood. Rub elbows and shoot the shit with that whole crew of good fellas or wise guys or whatever the hell you want to call them. Who wouldn't? Think, I'll just get all the girls together and we can all nude up and go to Captain Kouchie's and get drunk and screw. Let's go, y'all. And, of course, SNL just hasn't been very funny since Captain Kouchie got mad that night. Though all the posts from here on out would mostly comprise of copied material from this list, there were occasional addendums to these copypastas. These were generally made as continuations to the stories presented, often referring to current events or pop culture trends. For example, this April 16th, 2016 post on the Jake Carson Facebook page adds 4 entire paragraphs in between the usual second and third paragraphs of the Pie-gasm's copypasta. These paragraphs all pay special tribute to recently passed public figures. Meadowlark Lemon of the Harlem Globetrotters, Glenn Frey of the Eagles, Maurice White of Earth, Wind and Fire, and Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia. While most of these updates seem in interest of keeping the posts topical, Reddit user Laban Gozi also documented some oddly specific lines, such as, "I am your hero, Turkey Lips," being added to posts before being subsequently removed from later reposts. The reasoning behind these particular additions and subtractions are unknown, but keep them in mind for when we get to the theories section of the video. At this point, the poster was firing on all cylinders, and blasted their way through 2014 and 2015 with few signs of slowing down. The only notable changes were the additions of new copypastas here and there, and fluctuations in frequency of posts among the pseudonyms. Willie Jordan had gone radio silent by the end of 2014, leaving the majority of posts under the Jake Carson name. The second major paradigm shift, however, was approaching. And though business continued to boom throughout the spring and summer of 2016, a fateful day for Kutcharitaville was on the horizon. A day that will forever live on in infamy. September 11th, 2016. On the subreddit r/unsolved mysteries, a redditor using what I can only assume is a throwaway account called Keylime WTF made a post detailing their discovery of the key lime pie poster and prompting discussion about who they are and what they want. This post, one made a little less than 7 years after the very first documented pie post, broke new ground in its own right. Before this, there had never been any discussion of the pie poster or his antics. He had gone completely unnoticed for the better half of a decade. The comment that had tipped off Keylime WTF was one by Roger Ramjet, made in an article on online news publication The Lumberjack, which was based out of the Redditor's college. Fun fact, the article was about sucking dick, which, yeah, it's typical content for our pie poster. But Keylime WTF also goes out of his way to mention that it was the most popular article on that website, which is also pretty typical for college co-eds too. And the cartoon is pretty gross. The post would get a decent amount of attention, and set the amateur investigators of the internet on a path that would lead to the discovery of all the information I've laid out thus far. But what would come of the pie poster himself? Posts continued undaunted for a little while, but petered off toward the end of the year, and slowed to a trickle in 2017, where only 3 are surmised to be authentic and not the work of copycats. Because of this newfound attention and intrigue, other posters took to emulating the style of Captain Kouchie posts and passing it off as part of the phenomenon. What was once a secret hidden in plain sight was now an open source format for shitposting and tepid attempts at creating creepypasta. As a result, posts made after the key lime pie mystery gained traction on Reddit are near impossible to verify as legitimate. Some of the more commonly referenced spooky parts of the Captain Kouchie's mystery can be traced to this era, and could be assumed to be the work of copycats through knowledge of the original posts and the habits of the poster. 2 such examples are the Captain Kouchie DeviantArt page and a Facebook page under the name Kutcharitaville. A post by Reddit user Karen Hapsburg alleges that she had direct communication with this Facebook account, which at first sent responses in something akin to the poster's original style, that claimed that people will soon learn why Captain Kouchie is called the most interesting man in the world. When pressed further, they received a cryptic response in Swedish, which happened to be Hapsburg's native language. According to her, the Facebook account had no way of knowing this. But when you consider that both the DeviantArt page and the Facebook account claim to be the captain himself, rather than an admirer like in the rest of the spam, the shadow of doubt deepens. When you realize that both of the accounts were made in the months after the first discussions of the posts on Reddit, it deepens further. The nails in these respective coffins, however, come from their own posts. A later reply from the Kutcharitaville's Facebook account, when translated from German, reads, "And through the mist of fading consciousness, I believed I heard a phone." If this sounds familiar, that's because it's a direct quote from the game PT. While some might find the whole pie posting phenomenon creepy, sure, it seems highly out of character for the real poster to rip lines from horror games in an attempt to wig out some rando. The same can be said for this post on the DeviantArt page, which just speaks for itself. This isn't to say that nothing from after Keylime WTF's call to action is accepted into the Kutcharitaville canon. There is at least one copypasta format from after this period that is considered to be authentic, and a few others that you can make a good argument for. However, for the sake of being concise and objective, I'm going to consider this final confirmed copypasta, known as Hey Bob, to be the end of the pie poster's official timeline. This supposed last hurrah's authenticity can be proven by the fact that Hey Bob has been posted by at least one Jake Carson account that was active before the discovery of pie posting. The post is one of the shorter members of its ilk, but its content seemingly references Captain Kouchie's newfound attention, with the line, "Do you ever wonder if we're being watched?" being a nod of sorts to the internet sleuths on their trail. Another line seems to reference the conspiracy theories surrounding the poster, in particular the theory that secret codes are being hidden within the poster's long stretches of punctuation. And Bob, here's a dead giveaway, right? And just like that, with a final sign-off of Roger or Jake, who cares? The pie poster slips back into obscurity. Easy come, easy go. He hasn't left much behind other than questions and imitators, and no matter how many brains rack themselves for answers, nothing seems to stick. While it is without a doubt a mystery with no clear answers, it would not be a waste of time to at least attempt to find an answer to the key lime pie poster's prevailing question. Why bother, and why here? Or here, or here, or here, or here, or especially here? The reason this mystery intrigues me isn't due to the wealth of evidence. Rather, it's because, despite all my best efforts in examining said evidence, I've never felt any closer to an answer than I did when I knew nothing at all. You could read every comment, count every period, rearrange every paragraph, sentence, letter. You could dig through newspaper archives, business listings, obituaries. You can verify and re-verify the fact that everything they're talking about is or was real. And yet, what goes unverified is any hint of a reason why. The who, what, where, when, it's all there. But the why is the most elusive part. In a sense, Kutcharitaville perfectly encapsulates the phrase, all this water and not a drop to drink. And because of this apparent lack of intent, it can easily become something of a Rorschach test for anyone digging in. What your gut told you it was at first glance will probably be the same as what it tells you on the 900th. Because of this, I won't make this theory section overstay its welcome. There are many other excellent videos on the topic that focus on providing and analyzing possible explanations. And with this video, I'm more interested in providing a complete timeline of the poster's history, to shed light upon the method within the madness, instead of giving it a diagnosis. Nonetheless, I have come to a few of my own conclusions about the case, and since armchair theorizing never really hurt anybody, I'll share my thoughts. Still, don't let what I think color your own perception. In Kutcharitaville, all answers are equally invalid. As a small aside, providing the most definitive evidence possible for this section has been somewhat jeopardized due to the fact that the key lime pie mystery subreddit, which I often use for reference or screenshots during the making of this video, has been made private. This was a weird and sudden change, and I couldn't get any definitive answers about it when I reached out to the moderators. The circumstances surrounding the sub going dark are puzzling enough to warrant their own separate video. But since most of that is anecdotal stuff on my part, I'm keeping the details out of this video for the sake of objectivity. Most surface-level discourse about the posts pose the same question. Is the pie poster a bot? This conclusion is usually drawn due to the amount of posts and the longevity of the post history, because no human being is actually crazy enough to post this much spam over the course of 7 years, right? You'd think this would be the case, but this is the only theory that the poster's MO seems to outright discredit. According to Mark Dungo 333, more than 700 key lime pie posts have been cataloged so far, and the real number of key lime pie posts is undoubtedly higher, as many posts have been deleted or are not accessible to search engines. For example, the poster apparently had a Discus account with over 1,400 messages, but all of those posts have been deleted. The sheer volume of key lime pie messages leads many people to believe that they were posted by a bot. But even if we assume that the real number of key lime pie posts is 5 times higher than the numbers cataloged so far, it's feasible for an obsessive person to post that much. From 2009 to 2016, that's just over 1 post a day. Looking at post dates, the poster's behavior doesn't seem automated. He never posts more than 10 or so messages in a single day. The number of posts per day varies, and he sometimes takes long breaks from posting. This isn't even mentioning the uniqueness of the 2009 to 2012 comments, which, while eccentric, don't seem characteristic of an automated writing style. Furthermore, I posited earlier in the video that these posts could have been made by a collective of posters, rather than a lone pieman. When you entertain the idea of a second shit poster on the grassy knoll, the obsessiveness required to post once a day for 7 years is divided in half, and what you get is 2 mildly obsessive people. If there's a third, it becomes milder, and so on, and so on. But this still doesn't answer why, nor does it answer why it went on for so long. This is where we get to my own personal pet theory, which is by no means a groundbreaking one. After all my research, I've arrived at the most anticlimactic conclusion possible. That Captain Kouchie is, in fact, just an inside joke. Or a meme, if you're annoying. This is a pretty common theory, but it's almost unanimously disregarded as being improbable, due to the fact that no one has held on to a joke for this long in the history of the world. This may have some truth to it. I would say memes are a very rough equivalency, but an inside joke just almost fits to a T. Memes die, especially nowadays, because they're public domain, and anyone exposed to them can just take the joke and run with it. Once enough people start running with it, the only logical destination left is the ground. But a little inside joke amongst friends remains fresh for a long time. All the people involved know the full context, they know how and when to use the joke, and, if they're funny, they know how to take the joke to extremes that still keep within the lines of its own logic, no matter how absurd that logic may be. Sometimes, those extremes will breathe new life into the joke, and the life cycle will start all over again. We could see this life cycle with the growing absurdity of the pie posts over the course of years, where they went through a handful of reinventions in their own right. But we also saw this life cycle break with Keylime WTF's post on Reddit, which turned the post not only into something of a meme, but also something people like to take seriously. Inside jokes are fragile things, especially ones that have been around for a long time. Perhaps this newfound attention soured it for the posters, or perhaps they found a way to reinvent it outside of the internet. Or maybe getting the attention of the masses before promptly retreating into silence was the intended punchline. If you've ever been a middle school boy, you're probably familiar with the penis game.
Penis. Penis! 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 Penis!
Where players take turns shouting penis louder and louder until someone, preferably a teacher, bus driver, or girl, notices and says something about it. Or one of the players chickens out. Usually the two go hand in hand.
You're a pussy.
Funnily enough, it seems the timeline of the pie poster mirrors your average instance of the penis game exactly. Even down to the fact that they kept on escalating the vulgarity of the posts. All this talk of the nature of a joke is stupidly abstract, but that's because explaining why something is funny is as daunting of a task as explaining why bother, why here. That's why you get people saying stuff like, you had to be there, or if you know, when talking about their own inside jokes. That's why I think the pie posts are so baffling to many. We are the witnesses to something intentionally absurd and comedic, but our lack of a more intimate context also leaves us with the impression that there's something deeper under the surface, and that's because there is. But we had to be there, and we don't know, so we can't know. Some people, however, don't find these posts so funny, and instead assume that our missing context has a more sinister connotation. That these posts serve as some sort of system of coded messages between members of a shady organization, and once Reddit discovered them, they changed to a different code. I mean, if the pie post had to be decoded to be understood, then the law of if you know still applies, albeit more literally in the form of a cipher. However, I see one maxim, and in response I raise two more. Innocent until proven guilty, and Occam's razor. Though I've seen many armchair detectives, like myself, make claims of a great key lime pie conspiracy via coded message, I've never seen anyone even make headway in decoding such a message. Usually they remark that they just aren't familiar with cryptography and leave it at that. There is one blog post I've read that does attempt to make some sense of a possible encryption method, but still, it doesn't provide much in terms of answers as to what the posts actually mean. So, going with what proof we do have, the post being a joke is just more probable. Occam's razor comes in when you consider that two or more dudes making stupid jokes about some restaurant is simply more likely of an answer than some incognito, human trafficking, narcotics espionage network communicating via dessert-themed porn fic on the surface web. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it certainly is improbable. Despite that, I fully admit that if Ghislaine Maxwell squeals and names Captain Kutcharitaville as her primary supplier of underage Key West teens, well, then I've got an awful lot of egg on my face. Another popular theory, perhaps the most popular, is that the posts are the result of a mentally ill poster. In my personal opinion, armchair theories are sketchy enough, but armchair psychological evaluations are even worse. I think it's plausible that whoever is behind this could be mentally ill in some way, and I don't think that that's mutually exclusive with my own personal theories. Those theories being that the posts are an inside joke perpetuated by multiple posters. I mean, the mentally ill are perfectly capable of having a sense of humor.
Somebody asked me if I'm autistic. I'm autistic as shit.
However, on the topic of mental illness, I think it's rather naive to think that the posts alone are enough to diagnose anyone with anything, especially when under the flawed assumption that all of this is the work of one extraordinarily obsessive poster, when we've already established that anyone who's willing to set themselves a reminder, once a day for 7 years, is capable of creating a big internet mystery. Which, I mean, yeah, it does sound like quite the undertaking, but I think anyone with enough initiative could pull it off, especially if they have friends helping them out. This, however, is simply my scalding hot take. There are several testimonies from Redditors who claim to know the Pelaya's family, or were familiar with the restaurant back in the day, and a few of these testimonies point to the mental illness theory. One suspects a regular patron of the restaurant who had autism, and another says the posts are the result of Oswald Pelaya's Sr.'s dementia, that he would continue to try to advertise the restaurant without realizing that it had been closed years prior. These are interesting theories, especially the latter, but they have no basis beyond the word of their respective posters. But there's one more thing. While Hey Bob may have been the end of the official timeline, there is, of course, an unofficial timeline, which has taken a strange, seldom mentioned turn. Secrets of the Dark is a blog usually dedicated to the discussion of the dark web, but on May 8th, 2018, they made a post about the Captain Kutcharitaville mystery, giving a basic outline of the poster and their habits. Nothing strange to see here, but, as we're used to, the comment section is a different story. These first two comments are quite possibly unrelated to what comes next, but if they are, it's a major departure to the poster's usual handiwork. Whether these strings of text are nonsense or some part of a code is undetermined. The next comment of interest, however, comes from a familiar name, spelled in an unfamiliar way. User Leanne says the following on March 29th, 2019. The infamous Captain Kouchie Pelaez. That's it. I just got it. It just popped into my head, right out of the blue. I can't believe that we've all been so stupid for the past 20 or so years about something that was right in front of our noses. Elder, you hit the nail on the head. Can't you all see it? Elder called the mystery key lime pie man the infamous Captain Kouchie Pelaez. Can all of you morons see it now? It's just brilliant. Just brilliant, Elder. Elder called Kouchie Pelaez the infamous Captain Kouchie Pelaez. Infamous. That's it. Infamous. Infamous means more than famous. Etc., etc., etc. Throughout the next year, similar versions of this new, unconfirmed copypasta began to appear not only on the Secret of the Dark website, but on other sites across the internet. Apparently, this poster, whether it's the original or another copycat, has a new MO of their own, seeming to post exclusively on blog posts about the mystery itself, or on other websites the pie poster has left a comment on years before. He even seems to slip in updates to his new copypasta, in a similar fashion to Jake Carson. Secrets of the Dark went on to make 2 follow-up posts about the strange comments, the first being about the gibberish comments left in May of 2018, and the second being about the post from Leanne. They even managed to trace the IPs of the gibberish posters, which is a first, as no other suspected pie post has ever been tied to an IP, at least that I know of. Another thing to mention about this new copypasta, which I'll dub the infamous post, is the repeated mention of the name Elder, which is probably referring to Elder's Vault, a YouTuber who did a video on the subject of the key lime pie mystery. Just like how Hey Bob referred to being watched, this poster seems to take joy in mocking the intrigue surrounding the phenomenon, and seems to be an avid follower of both the posts and the investigation surrounding them. References to prime rib with swamp water and piegasms seem to support this, though they personally tip me more in the direction of this being a copycat, as it seems strange for one of the original posters to be so self-referential. This new activity, however, gets stranger. When I plugged the first paragraph of the infamous copypasta into Google, I found this Facebook page for Kouchie's Key West Kutcharitaville Cafe. Usually I'd write such a thing off as a copycat, and while I still highly doubt that this is authentically the work of the original poster or posters, what I found is still a bizarre rabbit hole in its own right. Its profile picture is a post of the current All-Star Sports Bar location, which at first I thought was maybe taken by the poster himself, since I did not recognize this particular picture. But reverse image search did reveal that it was taken from a post on r/Unsolved Mysteries. The page was also just made 7 days before the day I had discovered it, July 13th, 2020. Despite its recency, however, the poster has made good use of their time. There are many long posts in all caps that are far more nonsensical than the usual pie posts. Posts shared from the Jake Carson Facebook page, more pictures of the restaurant's former location, screen grabs of Kouchie's ads in the Asheville Citizen-Times, and many straight-up copy-pastes of the post-2013 pie posts, including this new infamous pasta. There are many other, shorter, more miscellaneous posts peppered in among the rest, with topics ranging from the FBI to vague threats of assassination to Bitcoin and Satoshi Nakamoto. Many of these new all-caps posts were posted in the early hours of the morning, and some are even posted less than a minute apart from each other, making me suspect that this page either is, in fact, run by a bot, or the poster is copying and pasting these excerpts from a larger document. The fact that these posts sometimes begin in the middle of a sentence and other times even begin in the middle of a word supports this second idea. But because of how recent this is, and the fact that I literally discovered this while in the middle of writing the script, there's not much about this page that I can say for sure yet. As murky as the official timeline was, and in many respects still is, the reveal of the Kouchirita phenomenon has only made everything about it more intangible, more bizarre. If the intentions behind these posts are indeed as sinister as some claim, in many ways their infamy, yes Leanne, infamy, has become their greatest asset, as now all future posts claiming a connection to Kouchie's Key West will now be faced with a scrutiny that's not curious, but dismissive. But if they really are just a mischievous attempt at humor among those who know, those who are in on the joke, then to me, this misguided scrutiny toward pie posting is just as funny as what it's scrutinizing. Something that is, at its very core, the same as a middle school boy screaming penis from the back of the bus. No matter what the intentions are, I'm still engaged in the mystery. This video has only comprehensively covered the official timeline. The unofficial timeline is a more complex mystery altogether, and without the solid base of information that was the subreddit, it might remain an unsolved puzzle. And that's assuming there's a puzzle left at all. That the pie poster didn't just sign off when it would have made sense to. Sense, no sense. All that matters to me is that I kept my fork. And if Anita has something left in the oven for us, it's safe to say that I'm ready for seconds.
Don't know the reason I stayed here all season. Nothing to show for this brand new tattoo. But it's a real beauty, a Mexican cutie. How it got there I haven't a clue. Wasting away again in Margaritaville, searching for my lost shaker of salt. Some people claim that there's a woman to blame, but I know it's my own motherfucking fault. This time around, I'ma do it gangster. Blew out my flip-flop, I stepped on a pop-top, cut my heel, had to cruise on back home. Put those blues on the blender, and soon it will render that frozen concoction that helps me hang on. Wasting away again in Margaritaville, searching for my lost share of salt. Some people claim that there's a woman to blame, but I know I'm a motherfucking liar. It's all my fault.
Afro, me Thursday.